You're listening to Boobies and Newbies, brought to you by the Frolic Podcast Network. This episode is brought to you by two of Kensington's newest titles, Romancing the Rancher by Kate Pearce and The Spanish Daughter by Lorena Hughes. Fans of the podcast have heard me sing praises for Kate Pearce's contemporary Western romances many a times, and I'm definitely not the only one. In fact, one of Kate's previous books, The Last Good Cowboy, was an Amazon Best Romances of the Month selection back in 2017. Her latest release, Romancing the Rancher, is the sixth book in her Millers of Morgan Valley series, a spin-off of her super successful Morgan Ranch series. Now, as a native Californian, I absolutely adore the fact that this series takes place in California's ranch country. On top of that, I really enjoyed the behind-the-scenes look at the PBR rodeo, and mind you, this is coming from someone who knows next to nothing about the rodeo. So if you're a fan of authors such as Diana Palmer or Jennifer Ryan, and you love romance books emphasizing family bonds, community roots, and of course, sexy cowboys, then you will love Kate's books. And then there's The Spanish Daughter by Lorena Hughes, which is so unlike anything I've ever read before. I often receive requests from readers for historical romance recommendations that take place outside of Regency or Victorian England. Well, look no further. Lorena Hughes's The Spanish Daughter tells the tale of a young woman disguised as a man in 1920s Ecuador, weaving a thread of suspense with the history of her native country and inspiration sparked by a remarkable woman lost to the patriarchal history books. Lorena Hughes tells a story as necessary as it is captivating. It's a story about identity, family secrets, heritage, resilience, and of course, the irresistible allure of chocolate. Honestly, I'd read it for the chocolate alone. This Own Voices historical novel is not to be missed. You can find both Romancing the Rancher by Kate Pearce and The Spanish Daughter by Lorena Hughes wherever books are sold. Find out more at kensingtonbooks.com. And now, back to the show. Welcome to Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and we are back with 2022 on to a new season, new episodes, new year. And believe it or not, this is kicking off our 5th season of Boobies and Newbies with a steamy spotlight interview. For those of you who have listened to the podcast for the past 4 seasons, first of all, thank you. And secondly, you know that I am constantly looking for something new in the romance genre. Maybe that means a new locale or family dynamic or career choice or a hobby. My guest for today recently released an interracial romantic comedy set within the world of cosplaying. And while that might not be new for some people, it is definitely new to me. So please join me in welcoming author of The Love Con, Seressia Glass.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. I'm super excited to talk about this book with you because I feel like the newbie in the world of cosplaying.
Yeah, I just wanted to, at first I was just going to lightly touch on it, but then I figured that since Kenya has been doing this for a while, I really needed to go in depth on it. I have never made a costume myself. I really appreciate those who can. I don't even sew on buttons right. So I'm one of those people who will either commission one or just kind of source the pieces myself of a costume. And that's how I get my cosplays together. So for anyone, let's back up a step. For anyone who doesn't know what cosplaying is, it's a
Yes,
mashup
perfect.
of costume playing. So you're basically, as an adult, you're dressing up in costume of some of your favorite characters. And those characters can be from movies, anime, video games, anything that you love. So you just dress up as that. So I've seen when I've gone to Dragon Con, which is a local con here in Atlanta, I've even seen the progressive lady. So Flo.
Oh
So I've
my
seen people dress up
gosh.
as Flo even. So it's just a pop culture kind of costume party where you just whatever you love or whatever you find fascinating, you just dress up in that costume.
Well, and I don't know about you, but like I live for the opportunity to like wear a costume or go to like any kind of themed event. Like maybe it's because my background's in theater, because like going to college and living in like a theater themed house with a bunch of theater people, we would always have themed parties. And so the costumes were basically just the excuse for like having people over, like loving to dress up as something super silly that you wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to dress as.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've even done a couple of back in my belly dancing days, wasn't
Ooh,
professional, was just doing it for fun. So I had all, the skirts, the coin belt, coin sash, the
yes.
beaded bra with the shingles on it. So I've I've done that costume quite a few times. So it's just like I said, it can be, you don't have to be a particular person. It can just be something that you love to do. So I was belly dancing for fun and fitness, and I made a big investment in a bunch of the stuff. I even had the sword that I could balance on my head. Actually, I still have that somewhere here. So it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Well, so I have to know, do you have any favorite cosplays that you've gone as in the past, or even ones that you've seen at specific cons that you've gone to?
The different people playing Storm of different body types has just and they're because Storm from the X-Men has been dressed a bunch of different ways, whether it's from the movies or the comics or the cartoon. So to see people um, and do that character, basically, I love the X-Men. So anytime I can see people dressing as any of those characters. I mean, the different Wolverines, the
Yeah.
the different storms. It's just been awesome. Just kind of watching that, and of course, I've seen the stormtroopers. There's an official
Oh,
stormtrooper troop, the 501st, I believe they are.
wow.
So they have like they look like the actual stormtroopers. So they've got the whole full armor on, the helmet, the guns, and they do the parade every year, the Dragon Con parade every year. So, and I'm sure they go to other cons too, but to see like 200 stormtroopers marching down the street, it's like very cool. And then I've seen people do like almost like a Minecraft version where they use cardboard boxes and have made the stormtrooper outfit. So like I said, again, it can be your take on a character even. It doesn't have to be an exact replica. And that's what I like about it is that people can do their own version of the different
It
characters.
really
So
is amazing. Like I have to say, like the level of creativity. I mean, you mentioned it with even Flo from Progressive, like the amount of creativity that goes into just selecting the character and then also creating the costume to go with it. I'm thinking about like if there was like the equivalents for romance lovers, like if we had the cosplay romance challenge. And I know that back in October, my good girl, Esme Brett from Feminist Romance on Instagram did co-host
mhm.
a cosplay romance challenge. And so it was a lot of fun to see
Oh, cool.
people dress up as like the characters on the covers of their favorite romance novels. And I where's the convention? Like, I mean, an Instagram challenge is one thing, but like I'm waiting for the convention for that.
Oh, that would be so much fun. That would be convention planners, take note of this. We need to have that, even if it's just one event.
Yes, yes, yeah. You can take all the credit for it as well. Like just make it happen. That's all I'm asking for.
Absolutely.
I love it. Well, I'm curious, and I will ask you this in relation to romance as well. But since we're on the subject of cosplay, I'd love to know. I'm sure there's certain stereotypes about the wonderful world of cosplay because we see the same thing with romance as well. What's something that the average person, aka me, unfamiliar with cosplay, might not know about it?
How long it takes to make a costume. It is not, I have this. ridiculously short timeline in this story. So I want people to know, and I think I even put an author's note at the front. It's like, do not try to commission a costume, expect it to be done in 4 weeks, especially like in Iron Man armor. That is going to take a lot of time, especially if you want to get it done right and to look authentic. Making armor is not for the weak at heart,
Mm-mm.
definitely not. And so, I made a truncated timeline just for the sake of the story and the stakes and the pressure
It's a
on the
competition.
characters.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
So, but yes, really, I mean, yes, you can do simple cosplays. You can buy the parts for the cosplays, but if you're making something for scratch or
Mm.
you're commissioning something to be made for you, it's going to take a while. And if you want it for, you know, whenever Comic Con is, the San Diego one, you got to make sure that you giving the commissioner enough time to put your costume together and ship it to you or have you pick it up or something. So it's yes. So it can be a lot of fun making them. I guess it's fun for the people who can make them from scratch. I would be screaming and crying every day at the end of the day, because again, can't sew a button all right.
I'm
So
with you.
trying to do zippers or making boots or the armor process that Kenya was doing in this, it's just it's beyond me. So I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, went to some websites, you know, downloaded the files to see what they would be like, and I'm just like,
Yes.
nope, I'm
You
out.
you did
Tapping out,
your
girl.
research. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I feel like the only basis for comparison I have is that I am an avid watcher of Project Runway, and I know that it is by no means the same thing as fabricating an entire costume, especially if you're talking about including armor or wings or
Mhm.
something extravagant like that that really does need to be built. I mean, you're not talking about like just sewing, you're talking about
Right.
welding and soldering. Like
Right.
there's so many materials involved, but just whenever I watch an episode of Project Runway where they give them 24 to 48 hours to construct something that's maybe out of not, unconventional materials. I think that's the term they use on there. It's great for me to watch, but I cannot imagine the level of stress that
Right.
goes into, creating something like that. And that was actually something I really liked about the Love Con was the fact that I feel like too often I get caught up in like these ideas of like realism when reading romance. And so if you had been like if somebody had tried to tell me, "Oh yeah, they're going to pull this off no problem in the span of like a week." I mean, it's insane. Like you constantly reinforce in the book through the characters that like somebody wants to commission a pair of wings. Oh, well, that's going to take 6 to 8 months and cost a good amount of money. And it surprises the other characters because it surprised me as well. Like, because I had no idea how much money and time and effort goes into the construction of costumes for these events. It's incredible.
Definitely is. Yeah, because I researched the articulating wings online, and there's a wide gamut of wings that you can
Mm,
purchase. I mean, they got the tiny cupid wings, fairy wings, and
sure.
then you can have the big eagle angel wings, and then of course the leather ones like a demon or a dragon or something like that.
Mm.
And so they run the gamut of how long it's going to take. But if you want like actual wings that have feathers that articulate out and are big enough to look like they can support a body, yes, you're talking several $1,000s and a lot of hot gluing and welding. And it's, yes. So, yeah, I've saw some that start at 2,000, 2,500 for
Oof.
those kind. And, they even had some that they pre-made, and those were the ones that were less expensive. But if you
Right.
wanted a custom one, a certain color, a certain, the more colors that you want in it, like if you wanted like an ombre or something like that, yeah, you just keep
Just
adding
keep
zeros.
it's like when you're doing the house renovation, it's like, oh well, this is the way it comes, but if you'd like this in hard wood, well, that's going to cost more than the engineered wood, and like, well,
Yes.
it's going to be extra for this and the tile and the fireplace and everything. I mean, it very much, if you think of it in the same way of like building a house, it really is like very similar.
Right. It's like, would you like Formica that's going to cost you $150, or do you want granite? Because, we got to go get the granite, dig it out of the ground. They have to cut it
it
and
it
shine
not
it up
only
and all this
looks
stuff.
better, but it's also more durable. It lasts longer. So there you go.
Yes.
That's the perfect way to think about it. If you are new to the world of cosplay and you are not new to the world of watching HGTV renovation shows, picture it like a house.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for indulging me because honestly, I grew up in California. I've never been to Comic-Con though, and I've seen lots of, videos and people tell me stories about their trips to conventions, and I always find it fascinating, but I do feel like I got a fresh look at it in this book, as well as, the fact that it does take place on like a reality television show. There's that added element too. So, yeah, I would fail tremendously on this particular show that we have in the LoveCon, but that's okay. That's okay. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses. So I'd like to back up just a little bit. And, before we talk about the LoveCon itself, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you and your relationship with romance, both as a writer and a reader. So where did it all begin?
Oh, that's a good question. I started with comic books and cereal boxes. Then I know that was just me. And then, reading ahead a couple of grades in elementary school, and then started dipping my toe because of the comic books. I started going into the science fiction and fantasy, and then found a couple of my mom's old Harlequins, and I'm like,
Mm,
okay, I like those stories, but I'm really looking for something more. And then I found historical romance, and that's what I started in. Joanna and Lindsay,
yes.
some of those from back in the day. And then I started working in a bookstore to support my book habit. I was still reading
Ooh.
heavily in fantasy and science fiction. And then I found romantic stories in science fiction and fantasy. I'm like, okay, this is cool. And then just kind of or I started reading more of the romance, and there was one day there were a bunch of authors doing a big signing at the Walden Books I was working at in the mall.
Oh my gosh, wait, you worked at Walden Books. Can we just for a moment have like an RIP in
Right?
memoriam
Let's
for
pour out a 40
Walden?
for Walden Books,
I
you know.
loved we had a Walden Books in my town, and then they of course sadly went under, and then they added a not a Barnes and Noble. What was the other big bookstore?
Borders.
Borders, and
Yes,
then Borders was gone. The
oh, that hurt.
tragedy of like bookstores was just so sad.
Right. Yeah, so there were a bunch of writers, and then I found out that they were local, and they were nice, and they were writing romance, and they were like, "You should come to our chapter meeting." I'm like, "What? Y'all have meetings and you talk to each other? You learn stuff?" So it's like, "Oh my god, they're real authors. I can touch them." And they're like nice, and oh my gosh, they want me to come join their tribe, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be there. So, I'm gonna date myself, y'all. I age gracefully like wine.
Yes,
So in
ma'am.
so in 1997, I joined that chapter. Didn't have a book, just had ideas and stuff. And
Yeah.
then in '99, I finished a book, and in 2000, I sold that book. And I've been pantsing my way through my career ever since. Because yeah, that was the first book I read. I didn't have any stories under the bed or hidden anywhere. It's like finish that one, sold that one. Oh, you mean you want another one? Okay,
I guess I'll get back to work.
right. So again, can't do reality competitions because of the stress, but writing to deadlines, that's a whole nother level of stress.
Oh
But
my
it's been
gosh.
fun,
That's great. I love it, from Walden Books to, writing your own books.
right? Like I said, it's been a roller coaster, but it's been a lot of fun. I've always wanted to do this, be a writer. Still trying to do my early retirement from my day job so I could write fiction full time. But I'm working on it.
Yeah, you'll get
Yeah,
there.
one book at a time. That's basically how it's done.
Exactly. Honestly, that is the mindset we all need to have, both as writers and readers in 2022. So everybody
Yes.
write that down. So I have to tell you, when it comes to my author interview episodes, I always do as much research as I can, which of course means diving into the author's bios and about me pages on their website. So I'm going to need a little more information context about the following statement I found on
Uh-oh.
your website. One of her earlier works included the autobiography of a piece of bubblegum.
I needed extra credit for my English class. It was a B. I wanted an A or something like that. I just wanted like some extra credit. So I figured what better thing to do than to write a short story. And it ended up being about a piece of bubblegum from life to being stuck on the pavement, hardening in its
Oh,
afterlife.
God.
So, so, it, this story was, and for some reason, the piece of bubblegum had a Texas drawl. I don't
Well,
know why.
naturally, of course.
Right, so it was just a story about how the rubber got tapped from the rubber tree. I don't know. It was just, or however gum is made. I was just like, in my imagination, because there was no internet. I wasn't researching this. I'm like,
Right.
okay, it's kind of like rubber, so maybe they tapped a rubber tree. But it went through this whole process about how it was born, and then how it got sold and got into this kid's mouth, and trying to survive, and the trauma of being chewed to death by this middle school kid, and being spit out on the sidewalk, and just like, yeah. So
Oh,
maybe it was bizarre enough that my English teacher gave me the
I was
extra
going to say,
credit.
you better damn well have gotten the A after writing an autobiography of a piece of bubble. I mean, it's just,
Right?
it's so out there, but like also I feel like kids come up with like, kids say the darndest things. They really do. Kids come up with the weirdest shit. I'm just like, what, where did you come up with like this soap opera styled like story about,
Exactly.
a piece of gum? Like, but I love it. I love it. Creativity at its finest.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun to do that one. That was, before I knew anything about conjugating sentences and all of that good stuff, before I got good at it, which is why obviously I needed the extra credit for English.
Full
So
circle. It all makes sense now. I love that. That's so much fun. But what a funny thing. Anyway, like I said, if anybody ever just needs a fun time, read the author's bios on authors' websites, because I think sometimes authors also forget like what's there. And it always entertains me to find out that we have things in common, like liking reality television or liking bubblegum. I mean, it's it's just always so much fun and a great way to connect with other authors.
it is awesome, and you're right. It can definitely serve as icebreakers when you're
Yeah,
meeting other authors in real life. So you're gonna ask them something about their website. It's kind of like how interviewers prepare to interview actors or musicians. So they're like,
exactly.
looking at your backlist or looking at this statement that you said, or from the
Yeah,
show you performed.
just think of this as that, except I'm me and you're you, and we're not Entertainment Tonight and Charlize
Right.
Theron.
Exactly.
We're better. Let's be honest.
I like that.
So, I asked you about cosplaying and like some of the misconceptions there, but the goal of this podcast has always been to introduce newbie romance readers to the genre and create a safe space to discuss what we love about the world of romance. And we are now 4 seasons and over 150 episodes in, and I have found that there are still so many misconceptions and stereotypes surrounding the romance genre. So, as an author who writes within the genre, I'd love to know from you, what's one misconception you think non romance readers of the world have about romance?
Well, they think that it's formulaic because they have a happy ever after. You
Mm.
know, if you think that having a happily ever after where the people end up together and not dead, or something is formulaic, well, then I can't help you. But if you want to call it a romance, these people have to be together, alive, and relatively healthy at the end of the book. Even one could be laid up in the hospital from the ski accident or something, but
Sure.
it it's it's only formulaic, and then in that ending is required.
Hmm.
That it seems like they're going to be together for a minute and that they're happy
Hmm.
in whatever they. But in between the it was a long, long time ago, or whatever is in the beginning to that ending, you can take them anywhere. You can put them on the brink of death. You can have them stranded on a planet, or you can have them like Tony Stark was in the spaceship about to lose oxygen, writing his final epitaph, and then he gets rescued. So you can take them anywhere, make them do anything, well, within reason. Torture your characters. It is perfectly all right to torture your characters. That's some of the best writing, when you can torture them, or you put them into fish out of water
Yeah.
situations. I mean, a 40-year-old woman roller skating after 30 years, or,
I mean, that is torture for a lot
right?
of people.
Exactly. I'm not going to put my big behind. Okay, I didn't know if curse words are allowed. My big
You
behind
say
is not getting on.
whatever whatever you want.
No, I'm almost at the point where I can break bones just by sitting wrong. So I don't want to do anything. Well, I will run for a Pure One sale and elbow people out of the way, but that's about it. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
But yes, put your characters through the ringer. Imagine them, on a desolate planet. Imagine them, going to a foreign country to teach the kids English. Make them doctors without borders. I mean, it's all kind of,
Whatever.
yeah, they can be anything and everything. It's just, and you can do whatever with the story. It can be funny from beginning to end. It could be angsty from beginning to end. Um, but yeah, they just have to be together at the end.
Yeah, I feel like that's not a big ask too. Like
Right?
if people think that the genre is so formulaic, you're right. Like there really, yes, there are specific like story markers that we associate with like romance and romantic comedies. However, I feel like a lot of those same story markers exist in other genres as well. We
Exactly.
have those moments in horror. We have those moments in suspense and drama. Like so the fact that we just focus on it specifically as being formulaic for romance is just weird to me when really, like you said, the only requirement to qualify as what we think of today as a romance novel is a happily ever after, an HEA. That's it. So much
Absolutely.
freedom to get there.
Right? And I mean, we've even accepted happy for now. If they're
Yeah.
together, that's fine. Maybe they won't be together 5 years from now. Maybe one of them will, be paragliding and crash into a mountain. We don't know that.
Wow, your mind goes dark.
I know. I haven't had my sugar today. Maybe that's it.
Mine's
Well,
like,
and I
oh,
haven't had
maybe they
coffee.
break up. And yours is
Right?
like, well, maybe he crashes into a mountain hang gliding.
Right? You know, she goes over the railing as in her roller derby debut or something. Okay, maybe I need to write a roller derby heroine, because my grandmother introduced me to roller derby. She had her
It's great.
great. She had her groups that she loved, and we even went to a couple of games or events. Sorry,
Yeah.
um, and I'm like, these women are badass. I just, and even though it was kind of like, it seemed like it was scripted sometimes, especially with the the baddies, that you
Yeah,
were
kind
supposed
of
to be for.
like wrestling, kind of like
Exactly.
the world of wrestling where it's like everybody has like different characters and roles.
Oh my god, my grandmother, she introduced me to wrestling too. That's what we did on Saturday afternoons. We would start prepping for Sunday dinner watching wrestling. So Abdullah the Butcher, Andre the Giant, Ric Flair, all of those guys from back in the day.
Oh
That's
my
I
God.
know. I miss my grandmother, but yeah, she was badass in her own way.
That's like some incredible memories though to have. I mean, what a badass lady. Like she sounds great. And
Right?
so I'm with you. I now that I think about it, I can't think of a roller derby romance. Like I can't think of romance set in the world of roller derby, which actually surprises me because I feel like roller derby had like a renaissance a few
Right?
years ago.
Yeah.
So that's not to say it's not out there, but I haven't read it. So
Yeah.
there you go. Food for thought for your next book.
Right? I better write that before somebody jumps on that. Gosh darn it, I need to put a proposal together.
She's writing it down now. It is
Right?
hers. Nobody else take it.
A roller derby team and how they find love. I think that'd just be cool.
There's
Kicking
like a
butt,
whole
taking names,
series.
right?
Yeah. It writes itself right there.
I can do that. I got to do that.
I love it, but no hang gliding accidents.
No,
I'm going to
no,
have to put my foot down when it comes to that.
none of that. No.
Well, let's talk about the Love Con, which is available now. So, would you mind giving everyone a brief synopsis for this book?
Oh, brief.
I mean,
Yes,
I know it's a terrible question, but everybody at this point knows that there's cosplaying and no, nobody dies in a hang gliding
no.
accident, just to put that out there.
So, okay. So our heroine, Kenya Davenport, is a plus size blerd, which is black nerd, and she loves to cosplay. That's her thing. She loves gaming and all, and watching anime and all that stuff. Not saying that it's Arthur intrusion or she resembles me in any shape or form, because again, I can't build anything. I'm building a book collection. That's pretty much about it.
Mm.
So she is her best friend Cameron Lassiter actually encouraged her to compete in this cosplay reality show competition called Cosplay or No Way. She's made it to the final round, and the final round is, and actually they have to cosplay iconic duos with their significant other. She's single, but she doesn't want to get automatically disqualified because there's a couple of judges, okay, maybe one in particular, who would be
Oh.
very happy to disqualify her because she's gone past stereotypes about being a plus size woman, being a black woman, and in the costumes that she's done.
Hmm.
So on live TV, she blurts out her best friend's name and says that he's her partner in life and her ride or die. So basically, she basically declared her best friend and roommate as her partner. And now that she's coming home, they've got to play pretend. He agrees to be her fake boyfriend for the sake of the show, and because there's a production crew, they've got to do these PDAs, and they come to film at the house one time. So now they have to say that they're sharing a bedroom. So they kind of start early to, so they can be comfortable with each other. They start sharing a bedroom through this, and as they're doing this fake dating thing, it starts to become real, and which brings a whole nother set of pressures on, from people who aren't very happy about that. At the beginning when they were faking it, all of their friends were happy about it. Their family was a little, but then as long as you're happy, then okay. And then once it actually started becoming real, then all of these doubters and haters started popping
Yeah.
up out of the woodwork. So there's a lot of pressure on them to do these costumes in the set amount of time while pretending to be part lovers, and then they actually do become lovers, and then things kind of go off the rails after that, because once these feelings come in, there's some other doubts that they start having. Even though they know each other and love each other and have loved each other for half their lives, there's still some, that kind of love. Being in love is a whole different thing for
Oh,
them.
for sure.
So them trying to work through that and overcome that and get their happily ever after, and when the day is a long fight for them. But of course, because it's a romance, there's a happily ever after, their
Yes.
version of the happily ever after. So I think it works for them.
Oh, I do too. First of all, excellent brief synopsis. Secondly, no, what I really love about this story is I love, first of all, that there's like a little bit of a pining aspect to it, especially I feel like on Cameron's behalf,
Yes.
because I love a pining hero, the man who just always is wanting more with that character. And I feel like there are some stories where it can come across as like cringy, like they're waiting for their moment and just kind of like watching all these other guys pass by sort of
Mm.
thing. But I definitely did not get that feeling with Cameron. Like he just they're best friends. I mean, honestly, when she tells everybody on live TV that he is like her partner in life, her partner in business, she's not lying. Like
No.
they are by all definitions partners. Literally the only thing that's missing from their relationship is some sort of romantic connection, and it's there. They just don't want to acknowledge it.
Right, exactly. I mean, Cameron is he is definitely a cinnamon roll hero, which is why
Yeah.
I have him eat a cinnamon roll in this book because I just yeah, he's just great. And, thinking of the things that he's gone through and how he and Kenya became friends, I just really wanted to show how he has progressed, from his teenage years and how Kenya and her family has helped him become a better person. Yeah, that's my elder poodle deciding that he wants to go out again. You're gonna have to wait. Mommy's doing an interview, baby. Okay, just hold on.
He wants to join the conversation.
Right? So yeah, I just really wanted to kind of show why he's devoted to them, but it's not through obligation. It's because they have done so much for him, and Kenya's done so much for him, even though she
Mhm.
doesn't think she has. So
Right.
I just wanted to show them being as real as possible as they learn to be real with each other in a romantic sense.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I also really love the fact that obviously she's the one who has these dreams of like doing cosplay and costuming and everything, but I love that he's also very artistic. I feel like we don't necessarily get to see as much artistic men in romance as we do women, and predominantly because the arts are something that are traditionally looked as more feminine, which they're not. I mean,
Right.
it's for all, by all. So I really loved that he was just as invested in creating as she was.
Exactly. Yeah, it was great. And, just trying to come up with things that he could do for his costume, even though Kenya had to do like 75% of it. So having him make an arc reactor, I guess that's not a spoiler, having him use a 3D printer to create all the pieces for the arc reactor just kind of really shows, okay, wow, you can plug stuff into a computer and here's your arc reactor that you're printing on a 3D printer. Like, that's very cool. Oh, and you know how to do the technical stuff to make the lights light up in the palms and in the helmet. It's like, oh my god, okay, you're cool. Because yeah, I just am in complete awe of people who can think of this stuff and figure out a way to make it work. So
And there's a big crossover between arts and sciences. Like there, I mean, if you think about anything with theater, filmmaking, I mean, real music, like
mhm,
there's so much engineering with the lights and the sound and the construction that goes into all of those arenas of the arts that it's a great melding. I think it's funny, especially because I come from an arts background and have so many friends in the arts. It doesn't surprise me that so many of my friends have partnered with engineers,
right.
chemists, scientists in real life because it really is there's a lot of crossover between the two whether you think
Mhm.
about it or not.
Absolutely. And my husband is a machinist, so he works on this big machine and programs and things to make industrial parts that get shipped off to companies. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, he showed me the program once and I'm like, okay, I don't get that. I don't understand any of this, but I'm in awe that you can put this hunk of metal onto this machine and suddenly you created something out of it. I mean, he even made me a pterodactyl skeleton. He just programmed it and out it came. So
Oh
it
my
had these
gosh.
articulating wings. You can see the ribs. It's got the beak, and I don't know how he did it, but he did it, and
Don't
it's
ask
just awesome,
questions.
right? I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, thank you, honey, because
Just
yeah,
accept the fruits of his labor and obviously the thoughtfulness that went into it.
right, absolutely. So I'm just like, yeah, that's a precious thing.
I love that. Well, and beyond the competition element of this, which I'm a sucker for any kind of story that incorporates like reality TV or actors or like anything within the arts and television because that's like my known experience. So I love seeing that. I think this book touches on a lot of like more real and I don't want to say darker elements, but like the grittier side
Yeah,
of being a celebrity or being in the public sphere because like you said there are definitely haters that come out of the woodworks that whether you want to believe that they're hating on the relationship between Cameron and Kenya because of her size, because of the fact that she's not white, whatever it might be, that's very much a part of our reality today when you exist so heavily in social media and in the public sphere.
Right, because they're trolls
Oh,
are there are trolls everywhere, and you play whack a troll, and five more will come in their place. So
it's a good game. Whack a troll. I
right,
like that. I feel like that should be an actual game that you can play like at your desk.
right. I wonder if I can ask somebody to make a whack a troll app, and just give me credit for creating it,
Yeah.
coming up with the concept. Um, Reality is, especially if you're a plus size person cosplaying,
Mm-hmm.
people are like, you can't do that character because you're not the right shape for that character. And everybody's doing their sexy bent on it. Like, sexy little Red Riding Hood for Halloween. It's like, okay, but that's a whole nother thing.
They get so much worse than that too. Like I think I've seen sexy pencils out
Right.
before and I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this.
Right. It's like, they're anyway, yeah, I could go
It's a
on that
whole
one.
other conversation.
Right. And then there are a bunch of things that black cosplayers have gone through because they're like, you're black, this character is not. And I'm like, this character is created in a Japanese anime. His hair is blue. Right? You're just like, he's not real, people. It's okay. And this character is from the video game. Again, not real. So I think it's okay to for anybody of any race to portray any character that they want to in costume. So
Yeah.
it's getting better, but there's again haters gonna hate, and there's still people out
Yeah.
there who will be trying to drag you down. But it's becoming more acceptable, or people are being more accepting of
Hmm.
people cosplaying different characters, different things, and making their own costumes, because it's all about the effort
Right.
of it and having fun dressing up. So
Yeah.
it's gotten a lot better. So I'm very happy for that, because when I started going to Dragon Con, back in the day, not gonna say how long ago that was, I was like a drop of chocolate in a sea of milk, and it was,
Hmm.
I'm always looking and see, oh, there's one, yay, kind of thing. So you're always trying to spot other people who are nerds and geeks, because it wasn't really even accepted for a while to be a geek like that, or be
Mm.
into cosplay and anime cartoons and all of that stuff. Like all of us nerds and geeks, had our problems where we got picked on, or
Right.
being beat up. But when your community is saying that you shouldn't be doing this, and you're picking on you, and not just your high school bullies, you know,
That's like a much tougher blow to take, I feel like, is like what was I was just watching I think a TikTok video where somebody was talking about, they said, "Well, I'm bisexual, so of course, like anybody who's gay or identifies as like gay thinks that I like they hate me because I'm not completely part of the gay culture, but then at the same time anybody who's straight thinks that I'm cheating or like I'm
right,
just like on my way to being gay." And
right,
it's something that I've heard from my friends in the LGBTQ community talk about. It's something I've heard from my friends who, aren't white talk about, is like not necessarily feeling like you have a place within this community that's supposed to be a safe haven for you.
right,
And I can see where that would also intersect with the nerddom, I guess, is
yeah,
just like, oh, well, you like this, but that's not enough. Like you're not nerdy enough.
enough,
You're not
yes,
into this enough. Or like you can like this, but because you're a bigger woman, you can't dress like this. Like, because that's not what it looks like in my mind. And
right.
so you can't embody that character. So yeah, that's, I feel like the biggest blow is like having a community that's already been othered other you when you're a part of that community.
Right. Exactly. It's very tough, and I wanted that's part of why I wanted Kenya to experience some of that, just so that she could rise above it, and
Yeah.
kind of maybe in a way offer hope to other cosplayers, especially plus size cosplayers, especially black cosplayers, that um, find the people who support you and want you to win and be the best you that you can be, and keep those people close to you, because they're always going to be haters. But if you have your community of people,
Mm-hmm.
your group that is going to love you and support you no matter what, then that's a treasure. So it's okay um, to snap back if you have to, or clap back on people, because sometimes people need to be put in their place. Let's be
Yes,
honest.
they do.
And even shamed a bit for having such a attitude for things. So but
Yeah.
do it safely if you
Yeah.
can.
And you might not be able to change their mind, and
Right.
that's fine. However, at least you've taken the steps to do what you can do.
Right. Because it there's lessons to be learned on both sides. I mean, one of the things you learn is that you need to grow a thick skin, but you don't have to be calloused.
Mhm.
Thick skin is good, callous not so much. So it's I just hope some of those kind of themes carry through in the Love Con.
Oh, I absolutely think they do. And I think a lot of people, like you said, will be able to see a piece of themselves, whether it's in Kenya or Cameron. But as a bigger woman myself, I did see a lot of things in Kenya that I can absolutely connect to. So yeah, the more that we can normalize bigger bodied women, or
Yes.
just people in general, in our stories, whether they're in books, on TV, in movies, the more that we can normalize stories about non-white characters, I think the more that we do it, the more it won't become something different to like gawk at. Like, oh,
Right.
this is so odd. This is so far from like what the typical is. No, we'll just change the typical. And then that way it just is what it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, the LoveCon is available now for everybody to go read and download and enjoy. And, you will laugh. You will want to punch some people in the face sometimes. Like, there is a strong mixed bag of emotions. And I'm curious what is up next for you in 2022.
Well, currently I am working on my next nerd blurred book. It is
Love it.
set. It features a female gamer, so
Yes.
I'm going to get into gaming a little bit, which is going to. I've got some people that I need to contact and get some more information on, but uh, it kind of, if you could say that, it's kind of a sequel to the Love Con, in that it's one of her peripheral friends who are at the game night that they do
Oh,
every week.
great.
So, and this particular gamer calls out a gaming company for their misogyny and their bad representation of people in color. So it's kind of a rip from the geek headlines a bit,
But good.
but in a good way. So
Yeah.
so it's kind of enemies to lovers, I guess you could say, because
Okay.
so yeah, I'm working on that, and it's called, the working title right now is Game On. I don't know if they're going to keep that or not. Or they'll probably come up with something better. But I always have a working title, and with the knowledge that it could be changed for better, for the better. Because it's like with the LoveCon, my editor came up with that, and I'm just like, oh my god, you're so great. 'Cause it's just perfect. I'm like, you know what it's about now.
Is it the unofficial Blerd series? Like,
I
I feel like it needs like a series name attached to
It
it.
does, doesn't it? That's a good idea. I'm gonna have to talk to my editor about that. And yeah, because basically the next couple ideas are still in the geek nerd blurred kind of community. So
Blerds. I
yeah.
love the term blurred. I think it's fantastic.
Oh yeah, and there's a bunch of communities, blurred communities out there, on all social media. So I was very glad to find them too.
That's awesome. Well, and this is I do want to ask where everybody can find and follow you. But before we do that, I do want to know something that I'm always curious to hear from authors, and that is there a story that you are dying to write? Something that just lurks around your brain, keeping you up late at night?
I really would like to write a high fantasy set in like Nubia. So
Ooh.
there was this group of black pharaohs who ruled Egypt for a time. So I would like to do a fantasy story set there. Then I saw a picture on Instagram of this black woman nose to nose with a dragon, and I'm like, if I could do dragon tamers, they keep their dragons in the Sahara, and that's where the eggs hatch. So they're like professional dragon farmers, but
Oh,
they breed the dragons, and they then sell them for top dollar, or at
yeah.
for different things. So it's just like just things like that. I have ideas like that, and of course, I really would like to get back into paranormal romance if I could,
Mm,
because that was a bunch of fun. Yeah, because I've done some urban fantasy, I've done paranormal romance with Egyptian flavors to both of them. So the Sons of Anubis series are jackal shapeshifters, so I'd like to go back to them.
yes.
Um, I'd like to go back to my urban fantasy series. So yeah, there's too many ideas, not enough time. So I've got to do the stuff that's under contract first.
Well, and then the roller derby. I
Right.
mean,
Oh
it's
yeah, and the roller derby. I forgot. We just
there's
did that. So
there's just
yeah.
so many ideas to tackle. No, and I'm with you. My mom taught 6th grade ancient history. So Egypt is something that she taught for so many years that it's like near and dear to my heart. So anything that has to do with like Egypt or ancient Greece, gods and goddesses, like mythology, anything
Absolutely.
like that, I absolutely adore. So I, for one, would love to read these books that you've got planned.
Thanks. Hopefully I can get them out of my brain and onto my computer screen. That would be great.
One book at a time.
You're
Remember,
right.
one book at a time.
And that even came out of my own mouth. So I really should
There you go.
I should remember that myself.
Yeah, put it up on the wall, tattoo it on your body, like whatever you have to do. Have your husband print out on the 3D printer
Right?
something to put on the wall, like
Exactly.
just so we can remember one book at a
Yeah,
time.
definitely.
Well, those all sound like wonderful reads, and I absolutely can't wait to read them whenever they are written. But in the meantime, where can everybody find and follow you, Seressia?
Basically, Google my name and you'll probably find me because I'm probably the only one out there. Um, on Twitter, I'm at Seressia. Facebook, my Facebook page is author Seressia Glass, all one word. And on Instagram, I am at Seressia Glass, and my website is www.seressiaglass.com.
Easy. Love it. I mean, I will say when you have, a more unique name, there is something wonderful about the fact that you can snatch up all those usernames.
Yes. So if you can spell it, you can find me.
There you go. Well, this has been such a treat. And like I said, I'm excited to read more, and especially knowing that there's more planned within the LoveCon Blerd universe.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of nerds in the world that you're gonna make very happy.
I hope so. I hope they'll enjoy it.
Well, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun, really.
Yay! And hope 2022 is off to a great start, even though it still feels like 2019.
Yes, I'm so glad to put 19, 20, 21 behind me. Oh my gosh. So 2022, you're brand spanking new. Let's do this thing.
Emphasis on the spanking. Here we go. Thanks so much for listening. Boobies and Newbies is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts. You can follow Boobies and Newbies on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Boobies Podcast.